Hello, everyone. Welcome to Small Talk. Well, my guest today is a city councillor in Mission. That's Mission, BC, for those of you who don't live in this area. He was a previous Lower Mainland Local Government Associate Director, which I have know nothing about. So
Yeah,
we'll
yeah,
maybe find out about that. Time to
sure.
meet Ken Herar. Welcome to the show, Ken.
Good. Thank you, Nancy, for having me.
You're welcome. First of all, tell me your role on City Council.
Sure. I was elected in 2018 and re-elected again in 2022. And I've been on council now for 6 years, coming up on 6 years, and enjoyed very much and very honored to serve our community here in Mission and sometimes beyond. We go beyond our jurisdiction sometimes. As the Lower Mainland Government Association, I was a part of them for 1 year, from I think 21 to 22, and it's good to collaborate with other municipalities as well.
So, as a Mainland Local Government Associate Director, like what does
Yeah.
that entail?
So what that entails, Nancy, is we're a board where I think there's like about maybe a dozen members from the Lower Mainland, and they have a conference every year, and everybody who wants to run for the election on the board puts their name in, and they get elected to serve the board. And what we do is we're kind of like a regional voice for the region that speaks out on issues, maybe to the provincial government, maybe if there's concerns in maybe in Squamish or Coquitlam, we'll voice that concern to the municipal government as a municipal board.
Right, yeah. So
Yeah.
what made you decide to get involved in municipal government in the first place?
Yeah, so our family lived in Mission for close to 80 years. Dad came in the early 50s, and we he was involved a lot in his life in the local area here in Mission, and growing up and seeing all that. Obviously, there's pressure of me, to do something in the community. I've always been involved. I'm a columnist with the Abbotsford News. I hold a lot of little titles, along the way, and I decided, in 2018, despite there was like 19 people running for 6 seats, I still decided to put my name in, and I was very fortunate enough to get in and finish fifth that year. With no really prior experience in government.
Right.
But it's an honor to serve. It's a lot tougher than people think it is. When people want to get involved in local government, run for whether it be school board or council or the mayor, I can tell you it's a lot more work than people think it is. Anybody, whether we disagree or agree with any elected officials, I really respect that they've taken the time to do the job. And everybody has different styles and different ways of doing things, and how we all come together to agree on things to move the city forward or listen to the public. So I think the main thing is to respect people's styles. Everybody, when I go to council, everybody's got a different style, how they see things and how they present things. So, and I think that needs to be appreciated.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
can be a little bit difficult. And again, as you say, you have to respect everybody, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of times things get pretty heated and people point fingers, and it just happens. It's just a theater that we're in, it's a tough situation. We usually have fairly big issues every other meeting, like a really, really big issues, and the community is very divided sometimes. And sometimes it can be really tough to make people happy all the time, right, with decisions. But the key to this job is always listen to the public, always keep an open communication to the public, remain, through phone or email, remain accessible. And whether you can help them. The comments that I often hear from people about me is that, Ken, you're always accessible. Whether you can do something or not for me, at least you've listened. And that's important. At least the person appreciates that you at least taking the time to listen to what they want or what they would like. So, and I've been very fortunate that to be reelected again, for another term, so, and it's, pretty soon we'll be halfway through this term, in about 6 months, we'll be halfway through this term. Right. And then another year people will be gearing up again, after, about another election coming up. Right. I haven't decided anything further in my life if I want to do council again or not, but we'll just finish this term and then we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
Okay, so if you weren't doing council, if you weren't on the city, what type of thing do you think you would do?
Yeah, well, I worked with Safeway for 33 years and in Abbotsford. So I was an employee there for 33 years.
Wow.
And I just left there in 2020. That's my previous life, right? That I did. And it was a lot of fun. It got me through university and a lot of things I wanted to do through my sporting. I also played a lot of tennis. I was a nationally ranked, provincially ranked tennis player.
Wow.
And we come from a family of tennis players and other sports as well. So, very proud of that life as well. And I haven't actually really decided. That's a good question. I haven't really decided. We run a magazine right now called Mission City Living, my wife, and they do a magazine. Maybe I'll pursue that, or but right now I think I like politics. I like the government sector. I like to, maybe, if it wasn't for council, maybe get some other position within the government and do something a little differently. The mayor's job, I've been often asked to run for mayor. I haven't fully said no yet to that, but it's a really, really tough job. Like, in the mayorship is a really, and usually people who do that job, usually, when they leave office, they're not always well liked. You know what I mean? And it's a very difficult job. Everybody's throwing arrows usually, and especially with social media now, it's a very tough environment. And I think the key is, we run a foundation called Cycling for Diversity as well, and Spinning for Diversity. We talk to kids about racism, and I've done that for about 14, 15 years. And I often talk about my role as a counselor, and I teach the kids it's important to show respect if you want to get something from someone. You know what I mean, right? If you want me to come to you and if you're screaming and yelling at me and saying this and this, often my guard's up and nothing gets done. But if you say, can you help me? I would like you to listen to me. That's the way to approach, in my opinion, elected officials that can make decisions that you would like to see.
Right. Now, when you're talking about like diversity and whatever, just thinking about, we live in a time where, as you said, people on social media say all kinds of nasty things, but also in person, we're having a lot of that pushback when it comes to being inclusiveness.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have that in Mission, just like we have it here in Chilliwack.
Right.
Are you facing any of that, like as a council member?
You mean, have I faced discrimination?
Yes.
Of any kind? Before council, on a couple occasions, that's why I started Cycling for Diversity, because as being a brown person from Punjabi descent, like my parents came originally from India, right? So and I would say generally people perceive me pretty well because they see me a little differently, possibly. Like, I speak, like somebody coming now from India that may have maybe a stronger accent, maybe possibly, and those kind of things. They may face a bit more challenges than me because I'm born and raised here, right? So,
okay, yeah.
I'm trying to say it. I'm trying to find the right wordage here to make sure. But I personally, sometimes racism, you may not see it, but it does happen. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's happening, Yeah. So, but I personally haven't really seen it. And my experience on council has been nothing but great, like, from people. Like, so I haven't really can say, well, that person, nobody's called me, a racist name or anything like that. They've been very respectful, and we try to deal with the issue at hand. Not our races. You know what I mean, per se. But growing up here in school and stuff like that, yeah, sure, there were times, as a young person, but I think, again, we were athletes, so people kind of see you differently sometimes, right? In your athletes, and that breaks that barrier, right? But we always fight for the cause and for injustice. That's what we do. And we fight for people. And that's kind of what I geared my life towards, that I think it's good to fight for people and take stands, whether it be the Pride community. I mean, I've stood up twice. And unfortunately, the rest of council didn't see it the way I did, to fly the Pride flag. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very honored to stand for that community. They're part of our community here in Mission.
Yes. And
I stand for that. And I strongly believe in it. And because as being a minority person growing up, we know what it feels like to be discriminated against. We want to be equal. I mean, And we want the same rights. You know, historically, the South Asian community didn't have those rights in the 40s. Not until the 50s, we've seen a lot of that, the voting rights, you know, the right to vote. So I really believe, and I stand for that. And I don't think it's a big deal to fly the flag. In my personal opinion, I think it's not a big deal. I think we make a bigger deal than what it is, you know?
Yes. Unfortunately, you know, I know like somebody who is transgender and getting threatened, bullied, and that sort of
Yeah.
thing. I just don't understand it. There's no reason for it. As you
Yeah.
said, you just respect another person. They're not hurting you, leave them alone.
Yeah, exactly. I
Right?
have no you know that I'm really passionate about that, because I think as a diversity person who promotes diversity, inclusion, and all that stuff, I think to me it was an easy answer. Like, it was a no-brainer for me, but others really had a problem with it. And I just think at the end of the day, it's just a flag, you know, and it shows support for the people who may really need it, you
Absolutely.
know.
And,
Yeah.
and I'm proud of, like in my family, we have somebody who's transgender, who's somebody who's gay, somebody of mixed race. You know, my son is
Yeah.
married to a Chinese young woman, and I'm thinking they're the same people if they were married to a white person, if they're the same people if they were heterosexual. Like, I mean, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
I just don't
yeah,
quite
yeah.
understand it, right?
Yeah, no, it's, you know, I just really feel that, you know, um, so that happened twice and it didn't come through, but I'm still hopeful for the future, because we have a Pride event every, I think it's every July here.
Right.
And, you know, thousands of people come out, you know, to our local park here to celebrate that. I think it's great.
Yeah, and I used to
Yeah,
volunteer to help out, you know, because
yeah, yeah, yeah,
see, that's another thing. If people don't take the time to meet somebody who is a little bit different, or you know, whether it's the color of your skin, or the way you speak, or your sexual orientation, like if people just talk to other people who are different from them,
yeah.
we learn a little bit how to respect them, right? I think.
Right. Yeah, yeah. No. Exactly, Kathy. But for some people, that's a big challenge, unfortunately, still, you know, and to me, it's an easy process. And that's why we do those talks, Kathy. You know, as being a columnist it's going on 29 years with the Abbotsford News, and I'm very honored to have that privilege still to write that column. Um, you know, that's why we do these little educational discussions, and we do it as a group, as a team. So I put a team together of 8 or 9 riders. We ride to schools, we talk to you know, high school kids, elementary kids, or sometimes even adults and certain businesses, and talk about diversity, how it works, and what are the struggles. And sometimes I think we overthink things too, you know, like sometimes you're a person and I'm a person, right? You know,
Yeah,
and we see too much in between us, and that kind of really affects people's outcome.
that's right. Yeah.
So yeah, and you know, and I started it because I was getting a lot of emails at the time, you know, about 12, 13, 14 years ago, about, hey, Ken, you know, those people don't mix with those people. You know,
Yeah.
the East Indians don't mix with those people. The white people don't mix with those people. You know, there were just South Asian soccer leagues, meaning Indo-Canadian soccer leagues. To me, growing up, we didn't have that. Like, we didn't have that. Well, I wouldn't call it privilege, but we didn't have that lifestyle where everybody just stuck together. We just mixed with the community. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Back growing up in the 70s and 80s, my mom said, your name is Ken. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? My real name's Colwinder, right?
Oh,
But mom,
okay.
dad,
Right.
yeah. So they're not going to send me to school named Colwinder, because the kids will make fun of you, right? Right.
Yeah.
So my name was Ken, and I knew my legal name is Colwinder. So, you know, I think it's important to keep your identity, your culture, things that you value.
Mm.
But when you leave your home, you know, living in a very multicultural country like Canada, it's important to recognize all the people around you,
Yeah.
meaning your neighbor, you know, different people, whether you speak the language or not. Though I think those are just excuses. We can break barriers. You know, everybody knows a gesture of hello, how are you? You know, that's the easiest way to end racism, and that's why I started Cycling for Diversity in 2011. And we visited a couple hundred schools in
Yeah.
that period of time, and it's been very successful. And it's a lot of work out of our own life to do it, because people expect a lot. We've done it, but obviously I slowed down a little bit because of council and other responsibilities.
Right. Yeah.
But it's ending racism is pretty easy, and I think we make it much more complicated than what it is.
Yeah. Another thing I was thinking about as you're talking, you know, I'm from, obviously my ancestors are European. So
Yeah.
did my DNA. I'm a mutt, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
They were from the Iberian Peninsula. They were from a little bit of Irish, a little bit here, a little
yeah,
bit, you know? So it's like all of that is all mixed, you know? And
yeah,
there's Spanish and Italian and all of this.
yeah,
Like, who am I to judge anybody, you know? Right?
yeah, yeah. No, 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 exactly. Like my wife is she's Caucasian,
Yeah.
German, and my brother's married to a Portuguese lady, and so you know, I don't. I think the world would be a better place if we all mixed together,
Yeah.
and we all did that, but it's really interesting, Nancy. Growing up, when I'm in my early 20s, I thought, okay, I was going to marry an Indian woman. That's it. My life. That's how I thought my life is. Right. I'm a brown skinned person. I'm going to marry another brown skinned lady. Right. Or my partner will be brown skinned, and she was. And I was married previous to my marriage now, but now I see life totally different. I
Right.
see it totally different as being in my early 50s. I see, you know what? I don't. That's not who I am. I'm open to, like, that's who I am. Right.
Open to
But
love.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But I think it takes maturity. Like, it takes life experiences and maturity to become the real person you are. And unfortunately, it takes time, right? You know what I mean? To really be that person. When you're in your 20, you're not the same person when you're 35, 40. And I think I see life a lot differently now than I did 30, 40 years ago. And how to appreciate that. Like one of my friends said to me, one of my former work colleagues, he goes, time you figure out life is almost done. You know what I mean? I said, that's true. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
forgiveness is very important.
Yeah.
People who have been racist towards me in the past when we're kids, they've come up to us, Ken, we're really sorry, if we said something to you or whatever. And I said, no problem. We all get it, right? And so it's really, the Indo-Canadian story, the Sikh pioneers is a story of great fascination of the local area here in the Fraser Valley. They came here, like my dad in 52, and pioneers before him struggled a lot, just finding employment, having the same laws, the voting rights, and how to be part of the community. And, my dad being, I see him as a pillar. Many people have come to me and said, your dad is, one of the best pioneers in the area. Did a lot of work, helped a lot of people out. And so, I think that as being elected official, I hold that closely.
Very good. Now, I'm
Yeah.
going to ask you another question to just sort of
Sure.
change around it, just back
Sure.
to
Yeah.
as a council member. Are
Yeah.
you individually like invited to different events, or do you get a letter, like say from some association to council members, anybody would like to come? How does that work out?
I think when we get invited to events, usually all the council go, we all get an invitation together as a group. Whether somebody wants to come or not, it's up to their own thing.
Right.
But like, if an association wants to go, they say, hey, could you come and be part of the community? Be part of the event. Yeah, we all get an invitation. Usually, on a few occasions, if people want Pacific people there, they'll get their separate invitations.
Right, yeah. So when you go to in the community as a council member,
Yeah.
like, you have all your views, whatever they are. How are you treated when you're out there?
People are pretty good usually. I find people to be very respectful. I know when people are recognizing you, or they've seen your picture in the paper, or anything like that. They say, no, that's Ken there, and I think for the most part, people have been very good.
Nice.
And
nice.
people have a lot of opinions. Like, a lot of people have a lot of opinions, and everybody seems to become an expert in government affairs. Like, everybody seems to be an expert, and that's okay. I get it. Like, everybody's an expert, but I think it's important to listen. Important to listen and just listen what people have to say. And there's often nastiness, but I've been fortunate enough, and knock on wood, people have been kind to me.
Very good. Sorry. Speaking of nastiness, years and years ago, I used to work in a store, and sometimes people would come in and be rude, and the managers would say to me, treat rudeness with kindness.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
No, of course. Yeah, no, I'm not afraid of a good debate. That's not a problem. But
Yeah.
yeah, but I'm at a stage right now where, I am a little, it does get exhausting, council, sometimes. It does get, because,
Sure.
like, you finish one meeting, you have to go to another, you have to go another, and then people think, oh, well, like, these politicians don't do anything. Actually, you know what? For the most part, I think everybody on our council and many councils or any level of government, they work very hard.
Of course.
People are working very hard, and they put their family life on hold, and a lot of people do a lot of things. I don't think it's to say, oh, well, we're a counselor to hold that title, that kind of stuff wears off after a while.
Mhm.
But there's a lot of work involved, and I applaud, like I said, I applaud everybody on council that does a great job.
Right.
It's just we all have different styles and way we do things, and sometimes that's okay.
And the public is not allowed to go to the meetings, right? So they can always see some of the
Yeah.
things, what you do.
Oh yeah, to count. Oh yeah, no. We usually get a fairly good turnout at our council, depending on what's being talked about.
Sure.
But usually there's like the council watchers, the handful of them, and they come in, they do, and they're very friendly with me, very friendly, and they want to talk. And I think the trick, Nancy, is just take the time to listen to them. They may be, some of them are pretty hard and a little different, but I take the time to listen, and they said thank you for just taking the time.
That's
And that's it. And
That's it.
that's all you need to do. And you know what? They like you, and they're good to me, and then that's it. We may disagree on this area, this development or something, but they respect the fact that I do listen.
That's a really good time to end it. Oh, sorry, you wanted to say something else?
And that's how I want to be remembered. That I've listened and I've done the job, and that's important to me. So yeah.
Very good. Well, thank you. Just stay on camera there. Thank you to the audience. You've been listening to Ken Herar, and he's a city councillor in Mission. And I hope you enjoyed listening to him, because as he said, he listens. So take your time and go and listen to him, and enjoy the day after that. Take care, everybody. Thanks for watching the show. Peace out.
Thank you.
Oops,
Thanks.
I didn't hit the off.